You wanna make money on MMA? LaTB. You wanna know who to put it in your parlay? LaTB. You wanna know our DraftKings stay away? LaTB. So, who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who was the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick? Everybody say you mean Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that out there living they dream? Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that still smoking all the green? Lesbo and the Bean. Come on y'all, let me hear you scream. Lesbo and the Bean. You wanna make money on MMA? LaTB. You wanna know who to put in your parlay? LaTB. You wanna know what DraftKings stay awake? LaTB. So who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who is the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick? Everybody say you mean Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that out there living the dream? Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that still smoking all the green? Lesbo and the Bean. Come on y'all, let me hear you scream. Lesbo and the Bean.
Welcome back. LaTB, all up in your face. How has your weekend been?
All over your face.
How did your weekend end up going? How did you end up liking some of these? I guess we got post-side talk for later. How do you actually feel about GSP already vacating his belt at 185 pounds to Whittaker, who is now the uncontested champ, fighting Luke Rockhold now in essentially the contender bout? That was the fight to make.
I'm so excited about it. What a gentleman. I know everyone that's mad that he's vacating the belt, whatever. I'm glad Bisping's not holding it up anymore. And even if that, I wanted to see the fight between Bisping and GSP. I was interested by the time it got here. He walked away from it, so we didn't lose out on that fight. Passes on to Whittaker. Cool. Good deal. If
Clean
Conor
break.
could only do the same. There's no reason Conor has to hold that belt. So
Yeah.
I understand, because if he wanted to walk back in, he can rearrange his contract for pay-per-view points regardless of the belt.
Correct.
He's big enough.
Correct.
So GSP is kind of the same vein, where he could probably arrange himself for pay-per-view points regardless of belt. He probably got some kind of deal. So he doesn't need to hold the belt to get a good contract because his name's big enough. So I respect that he's not holding up the division. And Robert Whittaker is a motherfucker.
This is going to be a hell of a fight. I know Rockhold's already like, all right, I'm with it. I'm ready. Of course, he's going to be. He's apparently been at American Top Team, though, for a little while now, Luke Rockhold. So that's always good, moving around. It just, the interesting thing that I feel like going on in the background with their situation is Rockhold and DC are kind of going at odds a little bit because people feel like Rockhold's broken up the brotherhood of AKA.
But aren't they just effing around?
That's what I don't know. I don't know if it's...
Because didn't DC, he was in an interview recently?
Yeah, exactly.
He was just like, because hashtag miss Luke. We miss you, Luke.
Uh-huh.
Or something like that.
But it's kind of a backhanded thing. Like, it's a kind of passive-aggressive thing for a fighter. Like, hey, we letting you know that we miss you because we need you over here. And you're giving up our secrets. Like... Fighters have all that kind of weird stuff. That's why they stay loyal.
Land.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're going to go show them our tricks because you are. You're going to go in there learning as much as you. People will be like, used to be a champ. How do you do that step real quick? Oh, that's a patented AKA step. Well, here you go. Like, it happens.
What do you think, Robert Whittaker versus Luke Rockhold right now? What's your thoughts?
Ooh, I think that if Robert Whittaker cannot get up off the ground, which Luke Rockhold is next level... I guess against Yoel Romero? Yoel couldn't hold people down as much as Rockhold on the ground is way more dangerous. Striking-wise, fairly even, but the power, I am going to go to Whittaker. It's a really close fight. I think it's a 115-115. That's a coin flip of a fight, but that's the elite. That's the two top levels in that division right now.
I don't know how everybody else feels. I know everybody loves Luke. I see him as chinny these days, and it's not just the Bisping knockout. Even his last fight, he did
Vitor
not
got
look
him?
great to me. He did not look great to me his last fight. I know he won. He did
Yep.
not look good to me.
I think he's going more towards that grappling-centric fight style because he is very underrated on the ground. Luke Rockhold
Is he
is.
as good as Damian Maya?
No, but Damian
what I'm
Maya is the
saying.
next.
I think that style a little bit's not that.
It's Whitaker can get up because he will get taken down. I feel like Rockhold has enough entries on the takedowns and takedowns that Whitaker has to be able, and he can. He has against a lot of people. The danger is with Rockhold is that he will immediately finish a fight with a submission. He's done it multiple times in his career, so that's the two highest level. Like, we can't lose in that fight. That's the real number one.
I heard something and it blew my mind. Khabib walks around at over 190.
Yeah, so does Tony Ferguson. But Tony Ferguson's like 2 inches taller, 3 inches taller. He's ganglier. Khabib is he's got a bear belly. He's been training out with them eagles, eating that eagle salmons and all whatever they eat out in Russia.
That is insane to me.
Yeah, it's a big cut.
Isn't he fighting soon? Against Barboza?
Yeah, he's got it. I mean, that's around the corner. That, I think, is the week coming up after this fun weekend. We're going to have of free fights on Fox. But
what else is going on in Twitter?
As far as that, did you happen to see the young man that was bullied that Dana White retweeted over the fight weekend? That people picked on him, dropped milk on him, and it was a sad story. Sean Hannity from Fox retweeted the kid. Like, tons of celebrities and athletes, every MMA fighter has gone out and specifically asked, like, hey, come to this camp, we'll fly you out here to teach you how to, defend yourself. And unfortunately, in that short amount of time that happened, they've already been pulled off of all of their sponsors and everything because another MMA fighter, Joe Schilling, actually outed the mother for being specifically minded towards the GoFundMe page instead of getting her son proper bully treatment, which is learn how to be a little badass, learn how to break some arms and kids leave you alone. How do you feel about that story in general? Have you even heard about that story in general?
Yes. And it touches my heart. I mean, the kid obviously looks different. We live in an internet age. I don't know if his mom put it out there because she was trying to bring awareness to it. Nowhere in it does it like, give this kid money.
Right. I think that other people set up the GoFundMe, but then that's what she saw all of a sudden. Like, well, people are adding a lot of money to this. Because it started to add up very quickly.
Oh, she set up a GoFundMe originally when she posted the video?
Somebody else did for them.
Oh.
But then as soon as she was given attention, I think she ended up being like, ooh, we can make money. Keep promoting this, guys. Because Joe Schilling himself said, we'll fly you out to California. We'll teach him some bully toughening up regiment stuff. And his mom was like, oh, can you just promote his GoFundMe? And Joe Schilling asked specifically, like, why do you need GoFundMe? And she's like, well, the holidays are coming up and I wanted to get him something nice. It's already got like 25 grand in it. That's a hell of a gift.
It's like the internet age we live in, but I also feel bad for the kid. He obviously is, and kids are fucking cruel. I don't know if it's the best route that the mom took to do it, but people want to give to something around this time of year. This is the time of year. It makes people feel good to give. If they want to give to this different kid, I don't care. If the mom's good and she actually makes sure the kid gets something nice out of this, or pays off the family's bills or car or something, and the family does better, or maybe pay for the kid to have some sort of elective surgery just for aesthetics, that wouldn't be, I don't know. And I'm not saying people are always going to be like that for the rest of the kid's life, and there's so many crazy surgeries out there. I wish I could say the world's going to change and everyone's going to treat the kid nicer, but I don't know if that's the world we live in, so I don't know. If she spends it on the kid, I don't care. He can be a millionaire off this, poor kid.
Oh, that's what it's just...
We all work with the cards we're dealt. If it's the cards he were dealt that he looked different and he can benefit off of it, it's the same that if you were excelling somewhere, almost. It's like the cards he was dealt. Maybe he played them a little better than some. If he does right by it,
True.
gets himself an education, maybe sets up a charitable fund to help other kids that look different, some bullying campaign, or even whatever, if he has a cleft palate or whatever his little issue,
right.
He sets up something for that. All the more power to him. I don't know what these people are going to do with it yet. At least it's legit for a kid. We can see it if the mom's not some sort of shilling herself.
The internet will tell us. The Bible of the internet will come to fruition, and I feel like we will eventually find out. There's all sorts of news reporters all over the world just looking for a story, and this has juicy story written all over it. This is going to be a little Vice piece potentially later on. So, any other MMA Twitter stuff that's been going on? There's been a lot of course, Dana White retweeting that young man. The Diego Sanchez with the Shermanator himself actually being on Ariel Helwani and giving a post-fight interview after that epic battle they had where Marquez ended up tapping Diego Sanchez via submission first round. Did you end up catching any of that video? Marquez did have a little touch of the Down syndrome, by the way.
Yes, it was very... that was actually more touching to me in
endearing.
Ways.
Yeah.
That was more endearing than the whole kid thing.
Yeah, right? I totally agree. And that, I think, is... Of all the highlights of the weekend, which there was many, that was the biggest. That I think is going to stick around for a long, long time and really inspire a whole community of people and bring even other people into the sport, because I know a lot of, people that back Diego Sanchez now because he scrapped in there with a handicap guy.
I don't ever want to see Diego Sanchez fight again. If he wants to fight Down syndrome people for charity from this point in his career, that would be the best career move he could make for me.
I agree 100%. 100%.
Just lose.
Yep.
You will be the biggest hero in the world.
Maybe even win a couple, but you don't got to be bloody. I mean, those punches.
He's educated enough to keep them safe.
Oh, yeah.
And so I feel like this could be amazing. He could set up a whole league.
So with the Jackson Winklejohn, how they're growing in their community so much right now, do you know all the stuff that's going on outside of the Winklejohn camps in the local Albuquerque community? They put on that fight show that Diego Sanchez fought the Shermanator, and it was their promotion. They're feeding also their own fighters into the UFC. That's how they're doing it as well. But Winklejohn just got hired by the New Mexico State Police to teach them self-defense. So they got a contract. They got a government contract. John Winklejohn is a little mini Halliburton in the MMA scene. They're teaching self-defense to local law enforcement, and I love it. I love it. They're teaching officers practical, real information. There's some cops I know out there that still do karate. Get a motherfucking life, homie. Learn some real shit. Yeah, learn some kickboxing, boxing, but do not do the... Well, karate has its somewhat...
Everything has its thing,
something.
But it's like that 1980s YMCA karate.
If you learn MMA, most perps, no matter who it is, you're going to be able to get the fight to the ground and figure it out. So I absolutely love that. It's just how much MMA is being respected in general is now that government... And actually... Ken Shamrock did have a United States Marine Corps contract where he developed the McMap system, helped develop it, where we do rear naked chokes in the Marine Corps, as well as other just sweeps and stuff that was highly advanced. And we actually were told that was cutting edge fighting tactics. And to me, growing up watching MMA in high school and stuff, it was so basic. I already knew it. I was just like, arm bars? Chokes? Oh, Ken Shamrock's doing this? Of course.
You're like, me and my brother have been doing this since we were 14.
Yeah, we were doing this since wrestling. And I remember, just getting high up in belts real quickly because it was so typical. So MMA, real functionality in the real world is kind of what I'm boiling down to.
Did you see it's official of Kamaru Usman versus Emil Meek for UFC 220 in Boston?
Yeah, not that excited for it. I see a one-sided fight. I think you know how that goes. I'm excited to see Kamaru win.
Yes. And I hope he does something good on the mic when he wins. And I think he's smart enough to realize he can't fade back. He has to make it brutal for Dana to pay attention.
I agree. With the fight, though, I want to see Usman fighting higher caliber. He's fought higher caliber than Meek already, so I'm just kind of like, this is a step back. I don't want to see this. He doesn't want it.
It's just
nobody's willing to fight him. I know, and that's unfortunately that situation for him. So that does make it a little lackluster for me because I'm like, he's gonna be minus 500, minus 600-700. So there's not gonna be value on Usman. People see it. It's a very lopsided fight, in my point of view. I don't know. Maybe you'll change my mind when we get there.
No way. I'm team Usman all day on that. I don't know if there's anything else kooky going on.
So, just over the weekend, we had hell of a fight weekend. We had Bellator, LFA, RFA, Kickboxing Invicta, boxing. Boxing, I feel like, was highlighted in one of the few times it's been in a long time with Lomachenko defeating the undefeated, also golden award medal Olympic winner, and getting people to quit 4 times in a row now on the stands, which is just a complete verification of the level of eliteness of Lomachenko. And Lomachenko's been training with TJ Dillashaw for the last 6 to 7 months, in case you guys didn't know that. So TJ's getting that next level California. Yeah, Lomachenko, one of his main training partners, and you can see Dillashaw in the workup to this last fight, training with Lomachenko. And my evil twin was telling me that he was watching some other footage of their regular sparring, and you saw TJ get a little cocky, and Lomachenko put it down. So TJ was probably doing that asshole shit, just like, ooh, I got you. Ooh, I got you. We're just sparring.
I saw that footage of them. I just didn't know it was a regular thing. I thought it was just a one-time.
No, they're training partners.
That's pretty impressive, then, but it also shows in TJ,
exactly.
This past time in the octagon.
Exactly. And how much more, even though he is a little asshole, he's going to win some fights. He's going to make you some money later on. So that was a highlight for boxing. Then the UFC, I mean, we don't have to break down everything. I ended up having a shit night. I switched a couple of my fights the last second after weigh-ins. Bad call. I went 5-13. One of the worst nights I've had in a long time. It hurt. Luckily, my DraftKings cards came through. My LaTB card came through. I ended up cashing out there. So I'll take the tap bad score for the DK good score. How'd you end up doing real quick over the weekend?
I'm trying to pull them up. I don't even remember, but I feel like I had a really good night.
I would agree with that. I thought you were 10-13.
Was it UFC 218? No. That was UFC 218. UFC Fight Night 123?
Fresno.
7-13. Not great. Just over 50%.
But, yeah. So,
not great. I mean, that's why I don't remember it. I never remember it when I do that. If I come on here and blow it out, I always remember the details on that. Yeah, I had a rough night.
Any of the major highlights? I mean, Knight, I think we were pretty right on Knight that you couldn't really trust him. Benitez was going to be a good value play there, and he totally was. He saved a lot of my cards being the victor in that fight.
Giles we saw all day.
Yep.
Ramos we saw all day.
Anders. Ramos as well. What I really liked in that fight real quick was that was a gut check time. Ramos throws heavy punches the whole time, but his gas tank. Grutzmacher's got a chin for fucking days.
He was
chin for days. With Ramos, though, that shin, if you look back, his shin was ruined. It was a hematoma that just most fighters would have stopped, and Ramos just kept pushing forward even with that bad gas tank. Got it to the ground, finished it, but even Grutzmacher, I like him for other fights. I think that he can put it on other people that aren't going to be able to take that type of pressure.
Something that probably saved your DraftKings cards was probably the Leslie Smith underdog pick. I'm just saying. That was probably a big thing. That Perez was the underdog versus Alcantara.
Correct.
And we called the Perez decision 100% on, and it called it exactly how it went.
I agree 100%. It was, if you're listening, you're cashing. You're cashing them checks. You're cashing them bills.
That is who we said, right?
Yeah. We had Perez as
okay, that's what I thought. I said I already see the Mexican flag behind him. I don't think I got it out. I actually think I have Mexican flags saved, and that was the reason that I saved them. Or maybe I just thought it in my head. This fight, I feel like I should have gotten right. and we should have both gotten it right. I don't know how the next one, the Devilishvili versus the Saints.
And I would agree 100%.
Why did we go with the crowd? We both, on air, the energy I felt was that we both had Saints to win, but then we let them sway us.
And I would say that I felt like I was 100% right with my pick. I feel like Dakishvili won that fight. And Evil Twin is on the side of Frankie Zane's winning that fight because he was saying that the pressure created the takedowns. And those takedowns wouldn't have come if it wouldn't have been for Zane's pressure. So therefore the ring control gave it to Zane's. And I would say that with that logic, if a counter punch lands and it's a TKO, then it doesn't count. Because it's still a counter. A takedown is still, whether it's a counter or not, it's still a takedown. And it was 10-0 takedowns in a fight. I don't see how that's just not absolutely one-sided. Whether he was backing up and then setting up those takedowns, everybody has different entries. It's the name of the game. Forward pressure is not position
Holly
change.
Holmes never wins a decision.
Exactly. It's just position change for advantageous
Conor
position.
McGregor knocking out Aldo doesn't count.
Because it's a counter. It doesn't make any sense at all. So the position change being Frankie Zane's getting put on the ground is way more points no matter how you look at it in my point of view. So I think that was one of the worst reffing calls we'd seen in a long, long time. I just saw it. But other people were saying that it was lopsided Zane's. I think Zane's outstruck him by a few strikes when I saw the statistics of it. What was the other fight that ended up being really close? The Morales versus Lopez. I think I went with Morales' decision, and that was a barn burner the first round. I'm surprised I went to decision by the time we ended up getting to the third.
Even though Lopez won it and I had Lopez on it, I was surprised that Lopez won.
It was
so close. If that would have been a draw, I wouldn't have been upset.
I would have agreed with that.
Such an entertaining fight.
They both rocked each other multiple times. I do feel like Lopez ended up hurting Morales a bit more, but when I look back at the strike stats for that, it was 78-78. But I would say
with the other decision though, because to me, if you want to go with that, then Liz Carmouche should have won the fight versus.
And I had Carmouche as well.
But if you wanted to judge by the same criteria. Then she should have beat Davis because most of Davis's takedowns were her going backward at first. And then, didn't she get a lot of takedowns in the fight? Isn't that how she won the fight?
I think she did have more takedowns and or reversals and then ended up being on top position, which is the advantageous position there, or viewed. But with all these rule changes as well, that's why we have to be keeping up whether they're going to use the California rules in the state of Nevada or Canada as we're going to be going up this coming up weekend.
Or are they going to use the 2015 rules for this fight, or are they going to use the 2017 rules?
Right. It changes everything. It changes the hand positioning as well, whether one hand is a down opponent, two hands, or it has to be two knees.
Perez versus Anders, I was kind of impressed with Perez.
Yeah, I agree. He took a beating.
He just stayed up. The Horcher decision.
Sleepy fight.
And then we get into Marias versus Aljamain Sterling.
One of the biggest knockouts of the year.
Can I tell you though? I know they train. I know Marias is MFer.
Yep.
I won't, when everybody else is saying he slept Aljamain Sterling, he didn't mean to.
He says he was throwing that. He's already been on the MMA Hour and says that they were throwing that kick in it, and he's knocked out another fighter in that exact same position.
Not with what he
with that knee where it landed.
Yes,
he's saying he did because
whatever he has to tell himself. Whatever he is, I'm just looking the way his body, even his leg, even had extension in it. You wouldn't even need to extend it if you were just going for the knee. You'd be wasting energy.
It looks more like a kick. But he's saying that he turned
whatever
the knee.
He has to tell himself. But I'm going to remember.
It was one of the most
landed. It was crazy. I really thought, I didn't even, when I went to tweet, goddamn knockout, I was like, Aljamain Sterling could be dead, and I don't want to be the podcast that gets retweets when everyone's like, Aljamain Sterling died in the octagon tonight, you guys. I'm going to be like, delete. So I didn't want to be like, you got knocked the fuck out.
So there has been some criticism on the lack of coverage on Aljamain Sterling. They did have to pull him out on a stretcher. He was dabbing it up, though. Aljamain Sterling was having a hell of a time, in the ring after that knockout. Did you end up seeing all those?
None of it.
There was memes going around where he was dabbing because he was Kier season.
Oh man, it was just unreal.
So-
They never showed him again, so I knew it was bad.
So the
Or at least the
reason,
feed that I had.
the criticism that the law, Ariel specifically has, and I agree with, is just like other sports, show that injury because that's as much of the sport as the win is. Is you got to know what you're getting in there, so people also don't play around in here. Those are professionals.
I agree. You got to see the bad and the good of
exactly.
it. Like the Heisman, over and over. You know.
It's not just all about the good. You got to show people like, hey, this isn't everybody's lifestyle. Don't get into a fight. This could be you. With the laughing that I'm making and somewhat fun of with Aljamain Sterling is only because I feel like I have his consent. He's already retweeted and been like, damn, I was dabbing. The internet is ruthless. And LOL.
Oh, good. At least he's okay.
And he's fine. He went to the hospital, got some tests. He'll probably take a break for a little while. That was set up 100% with the leg kicks. If you go back and look at the beginning of that fight, it was off of a break. He caught that knee. But before that, Marlon Moraes threw 2 or 3 leg kicks that were so ungodly hard and landed, and you could see the whole change of stance. And then Aljamain Sterling went to shoot once before that, but it was garbage. And the shot that Aljamain Sterling actually took that got him knocked out was very telegraphed, very slow, and I feel like it was all set up because his leg hurt so much and he was just reacting, so that allowed that knee to potentially get there as well. Beautiful stuff. Hopefully you take a little bit of a break, Sterling, get some lower competition.
Agree, but I'm just not going to be one to buy a ticket yet for the hype train. That's
That's
all
a
I'm
good
saying
call.
with that. I think it was a little bit of oopsie. I think he would have won that. He was killing it. I had him to win the fight anyway. It's no upset to me. I had him on a lot of my cards. I just am going to remember that it's kind of a mistake.
I had Sterling, so it hurt. It hurt me. I thought he was going to out-grapple him. Nope, no.
The fight that hurt me the most is Knight versus Benitez.
I don't think I played Knight much. I ended up playing Benitez a lot more just because I felt like he could have went to a decision, let alone the win, which was deserved. Jason Knight is one of those hype trains that's fun, but I think that the life of cash has really gotten to him. That adding up of all that new family that came in, as we talked about a little bit, is people are now telling him, you got to go in there and get a knockout to get an extra $50,000. We need to pay our rent. You're helping us pay as well. All this extra attention he's getting, and he tried to finish the fight instead of win the fight. And that's where Jason Knight fell into a trap. Gas tank was looking a little bit worse. Maybe a little bit of that extra food slowed him down. But Benitez had a good game plan, didn't want to go to the ground at all with him, was able to trip him, stay slick, land a bunch of really good body shots.
Benitez looked better
with kicks.
everywhere.
Yep.
After that first round, he looked better. I mean, because there was a part where Benitez was in a little danger in the first round of being submitted. And after that, he looked better in every other aspect of the night. And I couldn't agree with you more that I never bought the Knight hype train. I liked him a lot as a personality. I still like him, but I think it might be a few more years before he's going to be as somebody I watch at being easy money.
Right. Agreed. He's going to be in dogfights every single time, whether it's a good opponent or not. So there could be potential money to be made the opposite way of Jason Knight, just knowing kind of what he brings to the table.
Yep.
So,
that is really wise.
With the main event, I guess we're there, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Who was the main event there? We had
all
Cub.
she wrote for Fight Night.
Well, other than Cub getting
23.
submitted in the second round by Brian Ortega, being all sorts of almost finished in the first round via Darce choke. So all the way one-sided. Ortega's getting tons of hype. That is a big finish for him. Is Cub on the way out? Yeah, more than likely. Is Ortega on the way up? Yeah, more
This is
than
what
likely.
I have to say happened with Cub. He was always a gatekeeper. Or not always, obviously, but for the last few years, he's been a gatekeeper. And because he was in such a brutal fight with Choi, it made us think he was going to go on a run again. And I bought in. And no, he's a gatekeeper. And Brian Ortega's past that. He's past the gatekeeper. And seeing this fight, and even immediately, right when they were walking into the octagon, I immediately thought in my head, which I don't know why, I love Doo Ho Choi. But is he as good as Brian Ortega? Hell no.
No.
It would have changed my whole thought pattern, had I re-thought about it, it was just that I wanted to believe in Cub.
So with Ortega, though, I do like... It was a bad call. I had Cub in that. I thought he was going to take over more, but Ortega's striking really has come together in his last 2 fights. He really set up a lot of that distance well, and people said he was losing it. I thought he was serviceable against a higher level striker, but what Ortega showed is he doesn't have to shoot a shitty takedown. He'll go over the top. He'll muscle you into positions that even regardless, he's just getting you down other ways than takedowns, which is crafty. It's going to give a lot of people trouble.
Yeah.
Clinching, getting people
I'm
in
glad
that
you
dirty
said that.
boxing.
I was thinking it wasn't that Cub. You know how sometimes we look at fighters and we're like, that guy makes that guy look bad.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that way this time. It was that Brian looked that much better this time.
Yep.
There was no way to stifle him. He was that much better than Cub. And it really was, it looks like he's progressing, and he's so young still.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about T-City. I want my ticket stamped. I want to get on board. I want to get on board that hype train. It proves Cub is the gatekeeper.
Right.
It proves he is. Because if Du Ho Choi would have beat Cub that time, I would have been on board. I was already liking him. And just because I'm not on their hype train doesn't. I always am gonna love Cub. I just think he is the gatekeeper. When you get past Cub, you're ready.
Moving on to the breakdown.
Breaking it down one fight at a time. Lesbo in the bean. A piece of their mind. Dun, 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 dun.
Is that Gloria Estefan in here? Who was that?
Is that Brenda Lee? Some 1960s. That's some 1960s stuff. Remember to like and subscribe and press your little bell and tell a friend, and we love it. And here is our breakdown.
Breakdown. We have UFC Fox 26 coming from the MTS Centre. If you didn't hear that little inflection on my voice, that means we go into Winnipeg, Canada. Thank you for having us back, Canada.
I thought you were speaking French just then.
We tend to feel the love a lot from Canada here at LaTB, and we appreciate it a lot. We know that there's highly educated, long-time hardcores coming out of Canada, being one of the first nations to really adopt MMA. GSP helping that a little bit out. But either way, monsters coming out of Canada. TriStar for a reason.
Our little Maple Leafs listening to the show.
Yep. So there's going to be some fun fights on this card. I believe we have a 12-fight card coming up. And we're starting the night off at the Fight Pass prelims. Then we go to FS1. This is going to be featured on FS1 all night. So that means that BT Sports 2 is going to be your best stream, if you know what I mean.
It's a lucky night for Fight Pass. For Fight Pass people.
Yep.
If you have Fight Pass. These are some quality fights.
Yeah, the whole card I think is very, very sneaky. And we have
Santa Claus style. This is the card that creeps up in your chimney, people. Creeps up in your chimney, eats your children's cookies. Drops off gifts. Seems a little creepy. Just saying.
Before you know it, you're sleeping. No, it shouldn't be. There should be some really high action.
You know what I was
veteranship
thinking?
in this one.
There's that Christmas song that it's like, I really shouldn't stay, but baby, it's cold outside. I gotta go away, baby, it's cold outside. Like, it's such a creepy song if you listen to it.
Where it's a woman
yeah,
being
she's like,
very
I gotta
passive-aggressive,
go.
like, hey, I got kids at home.
Have another drink.
Uh-huh. Please, as she moves the drink away from her face.
I gotta go. He's like, but I'm holding your car keys. I gotta
don't
get
know
out
that
of
one.
here. No, it doesn't say.
Oh, okay. I was like, jeez.
This thing's not gonna suck itself, but baby, it's cold outside. Sorry.
Was that Dean Martin?
This is our Merry Christmas episode.
Is it really?
If you celebrate those sort of things.
Yeah, or Hanukkah. I guess it's already deep into Hanukkah, a day or two we got going on here. So, regardless of your beliefs, you can enjoy LaTB.
Kwanzaa.
Oh, yeah.
Festivus.
Xmas. I like Xmas in general. That's a favorite
I
of
like
mine.
X-Tina. I'm a genie in a bottle. You gotta run me the right way.
We have an entire karaoke.
All right,
Breakdown
Nordine
coming at
Talib
you for
versus
you.
Danny Roberts. Let's get to this. What are you holding us up for?
At welterweight, 170 pounds. Nordine Talib and Danny Roberts are both veterans in the UFC with multiple fights. Talib coming off of the Canada-USA show, being speckled out of his 5 fights, win 1, lose 1. Against Danny Roberts, only last loss coming to Mike Perry later on, or over a year ago against someone later on, but last beat Bobby Nash via TKO 4 months ago. The taller fighter is going to be Talib at 6'3" by 2 inches. Talib also ends up having the 1-inch reach advantage at 65 inches over the younger Roberts at 30 to 36 for Talib. Talib comes in with that point fighting system, that tri-star kickboxing's got a good jab, no power anywhere, good angles. Gas tank is getting a little iffy. It was getting better, but at his advanced age at the 170 division, which that's the max. You don't see too many guys fighting too much higher than that. Talib, I don't know if he's necessarily slowed down too much because his fight style has always been very slow in general. He squeaks by in split decisions, finished a couple very low-level guys by finish, but generally doesn't hurt too many people. Danny Roberts comes in with a good striking pedigree. His takedown defense was definitely one of his worst attributes that he has grown incredibly fast in from his first fight to now. The chin of Danny Roberts, people are saying, is a little suspicious, but you don't have to worry about that for this fight for me against Talib. Talib doesn't have that type of power. The wrestling, Talib is not that good of wrestler, has okay takedowns, but Danny Roberts' takedown defense is just going to fold. I really like Danny Roberts. I think I'm going to try to play him on a lot of my cards. I know it's the first fight of the night, and we tend to stay away from these, but both of these guys being such veterans, there's enough depth in it. These aren't debut guys, and that's why I feel like we usually stay away from this first fight of the night, and this is it. We've seen both of these guys fight many times on tape. Tons of footage out there. I got Roberts' decision. I think it might go to a TKO round 3. I do like Roberts' gas tank's also grown more for me.
Wow.
What do you
This is
think
a
goes on?
50-50 fight, but I feel like all the DraftKings odds makers see what I see on this, and Talib is 8-3, and I don't see value in him at that, but Roberts is 7-9. I don't see value in Roberts at all. When you look at Talib and you're like, oh, he's only knocked out Eric Silva. Yeah, that ain't great to me. Eric Silva, who doesn't knock out Eric Silva? My grandma knocked out Eric Silva accidentally trying to reach for a cantaloupe at the market last week. But Danny Roberts has that Eric Silva type chin to me. And he was only knocked out 4 months ago. If there's money to be made, it's probably more so on a parlay or not even a parlay. Talib alone, knockout in round 2 or 3. There's probably the most money to be made on a Talib knockout because he's not a knockout artist. Talib.
4 months ago, he actually knocked out Bobby Nash. He didn't get knocked out. He lost his prior fight. Roberts did to that was to...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so to Perry a year and 2 months ago, he came out of a knockout.
Then.
Yeah,
Bobby
so
Nash,
he's
that isn't... Bobby Nash, what do we really know about him?
He's not UFC caliber, really, honestly.
Talib,
He's D1 wrestler.
The other thing I don't like about Danny Roberts is his cardio. I don't think Talib hurts there so much. I'm probably going to stay away from this with my first fight rules. I'm going to put no guy, nowhere. But I am going to put on my Tapology Talib KO round 3.
Wow.
I see a body
Splitting
shot.
Up. Ooh,
I see a body shot, drop to the knee at the end, and we're like, was it the body shot that hurt you? Are you giving up? Are you giving up?
Ooh, strong words starting out the night. We are going to be a split throughout the night, I feel like, but that makes it extra crafty. Moving on to the next one, we have Jordan Mean at welterweight against Eric Silva. Funny how you were mentioning Eric Silva a little bit ago.
I really had no idea what was next. I'm picking mine live on air. I know a lot of the fights that are coming up tonight, but I did not know he was very next. I didn't know he was in the next room.
So
why didn't you tell
me? We have 2 longtime veterans as well here. Jordan Mean getting out of the UFC, coming off a 3-fight losing streak, fighting out of Alberta, Canada. The 28-year-old is coming in against the 19-8 Eric Silva at 33. The height advantage is actually even. Both of these fighters are 6 foot, but the reach advantage goes to half an inch to Silva. Jordan Mein coming off of a 3-fight losing streak, being 30-12 at 28 is to Belal Muhammad, which the Bean had right all day. And then losing to Meek as well, and prior to that, Thiago Alves. A lot of people have been fading Means, and it's been working out for them really, really well. But as we were saying before, Eric Silva is one of the biggest fades in the UFC, one of the most effective fighters by the suspensions in TRT and drugs alike. And I think Canada actually does do a lot of testing, just getting over on their border and stuff. They have a lot of more stringent qualities.
Agree. I trust it a little more than if you told me this fight was taking place in Russia.
Or Brazil.
Exactly.
Right. So I think that the juice isn't going to be flowing necessarily as much unless you're in Canada, because then you've had it there a longer time. But if you're a fighter coming in to it, trying to bring it, just not going to happen. So we're going to see the worst of a fading fighter. Eric Silva's just a blatant fade all day. His ground game is really his saving values, but Jordan Means is good on the ground. I feel like the ganglier fighter, the power does go to Eric Silva, but Means is nasty standing as well, has good head movement, and is going to have a little bit better of a gas tank. I do think Means is a little weak on the body. Eric Silva could exploit that, but Eric Silva has a minute worth of a gas tank of a blitz. If you live through it, you're absolutely fine. Most people can. I got Means TKO round 2, elbows on the ground, TKO, ground and pound. What do you think goes on in this fight?
This is more fade to Silva than it is a plus to Means, but I agree with you all day. Means KO round 2, and I will have him on my cards.
Me too.
I don't trust Silva at all, and I have no idea why he's still in the UFC.
How much is this price value that we're going to end up
and
getting?
And speaking of no idea why they're in the UFC, I don't mean that disparaging anymore. The other organizations have stepped up to me, and they have quality effing fighters in every weight class in Bellator. They have quality effing fighters. The women's divisions of Invicta are the top tier of those, are just as good as the lower quality of some of the weight classes that we have in the UFC. So I don't mean that disparaging anymore to quality of actual fight, but I just mean
somebody could be taking your spot.
Also, wait, yeah, someone can be taking your spot. Let's do away with Eric Silva. I think Means wins this fight, cuts the losing streak, and for 8-4, it seems like everyone sees exactly what we see, but
yeah,
I'll put him on my cards. I'm going to trust in Mean. What do you think? You going to trust in him? You going to put him on any
I think he's going to be on my cards heavily.
Then I'm going to add it to the Lesbo and the Bean card.
I like that a lot. Getting on to the next one, we have Alessio Di Chirico versus Aluadu Bamboje, the Holy War Ranger, against Manzano himself. Both of these guys are at the same point of their career, even though we have a 2-year age difference. Bamboze 6-3 for Bamboze to the 10-2 Di Chirico. The taller fighter here is going to be Di Chirico at 6 foot. And he also has a 4-inch disadvantage, 74 inches to Bamboje's 78. Bamboje has some exceptionally long arms. He uses a lot of that, is it Taekwondo style? He throws very flashy kicks, a lot of spinning heels, spinning attacks. Notoriously bad gas tank, not the best chin in the world. He's been finished a few times in the UFC, coming off of a 2-fight losing streak in his short career, losing to Ferreira decision, and as of late, Paulo Costa TKO punches 6 months ago, which Paulo Costa is definitely someone to keep an eye on. The fight, stylistically, for Bamboje is very advantageous because he does have good takedown defense for the first round, but that gas tank I give to Di Chirico all day long. He's definitely more the grappling-centric wrestler coming out of Italy, has good takedowns, has been training out of White Lotus dojo, but I think he also has ties.
Drew Carey has a better gas tank than Bamboje.
Agreed 100%. Bamboje is 2 minutes. I'll give him 2 minutes. It's a hell of a 2 minutes. It's a blitz that if you take it, and if we can see it, that means Di Chirico's camp can take it as well. But I think he's also pairing out there in California, Di Chirico at Black House. I've heard other stuff of that, so that's high-level contenders. But shoot boxing, Long Beach, I know that Bamboje does the whole MMA California scene as well, which is just good for his career. Bamboje's takedown defense has gotten better, but again, it's all the gas tank. I got Di Chirico decision here, This is a really close fight. I'm not going to put this on DK anywhere regardless because I do think it's decision Di Chirico. Finish Bamboje maybe. I might speckle him on a few because he has that touchdown pass quality potentially. More so than Di Chirico. But I could see also a ground and pound in the third round for Di Chirico because Bamboje gasses that badly where his hands on the ground are at his hips. He's not even defending. What do you think goes on in this one?
It seems like I have to agree with the DraftKings audience again, but I also agree with you in the fact that I'm not going to put it anywhere because I don't trust Bamboje's gas tank. He's 8-6 on DraftKings to Di Chirico, whatever.
Di Chorizo.
I know. You need a nickname, kid. The Italian kid.
Manzano.
He is 7-6. And I do see what you see because you're just trusting the fact that
the blitz comes and he gasses.
But I don't know if he can withstand the blitz.
That's what a lot of people are saying.
And yeah, everybody sees that too. I also see the other thing of, for some reason, every continent and every country has had its time in the UFC except Africa. And I think he's from Nigeria. We have Kamaru Usman. We have, the Predator coming up. I think we're going to see this resurgence. I think it's time we build a card and show the African people how amazing the UFC is. They probably already know, but to bring that kind of spirit through. And I think the UFC sees it too. I almost feel like this is one for Bamboje because he looks so scary. I almost feel like it's a feed. So, KO round 2.
All right.
I won't have it on my DraftKings.
You do have Bamboje?
No.
You have the... Woo.
I have him to win. I think he's going to KO round 2. I just don't trust his gas tank enough.
Woo. So we've been splitting a couple fights where someone's going to do good, someone's not.
We have another one of those. The next fight is another one of those. There's a lot of these guys that it's like...
A fun night
we're
of fights.
watching them the end of their rope.
Yeah. 100%. So, if you know what we're talking about here, end of the rope, we have John Medeski at 155 pounds versus Abel Trujillo. Killa Trujillo versus the Bull. 14-6 for the Bull Medeski against 15-7. Both fighters coming off of a loss in the UFC. James Vick for Trujillo and Venata TKO a year ago for the Bull. Did the Bull break his jaw, his arm, or his face for that Venata one? Because I feel like he's tapped multiple times, and I've made so much money off of Medeski because he's brittle. He will openly tap in a fight where other fighters would be like, I broke my jaw first round, went all 3 rounds. Not this man. This man will be like, my nose is broken, tap, and he's okay with it. He has more of that kickboxing-centric style where Trujillo is boxing-centric, has really good in-and-out movement, tons of power, good serviceable wrestling, okay gas tank. Medeski's gas tank is much better, but he doesn't absorb damage well. It's one of my biggest flaws with him. I've made more money off Medeski than anything. He does have a few wins in the UFC, a split decision to Baghdad, who's no longer in the UFC, and then losing to Yancy Medeiros in a split decision, and Cerrone TKO. But the Bull does have a reach disadvantage for 2 inches. They're both coming in at 5'8". TriStar for the Bull as of late, so he's going to have that very jab-oriented style. No takedowns. Medeski has very limited takedowns if it even goes for it. And for Trujillo, it's not going to happen. He has way better takedown defense than that. The gas tank is what scares me with Trujillo out of both of them, but I do think that the few shots that do land for Trujillo are going to be so devastating. I have TKO round 1, Abel, Killa. What do you think goes on in this one for you on your cards?
I have round 2. I don't have it too much different. This is just as much as a fade on Medeski
Yep.
as it is for Trujillo. I also, maybe this is what everybody else doesn't see. I don't know what the odds are on this. I should look at it on the old DraftKings. Yeah, 8-9. Everybody sees what we see. Medeski is 7-3. A big thing with, there will be no underdog on this pick today. There's no need for that nonsense. Not only do I like Abel's fighting with some of our favorite guys out of Florida right now with the split up Black Zillions gym. Modesty, he shouldn't be here anymore at all. I think it's
Yep.
an odd fight choice for the Canadian crowd to let their boy get slaughtered, but that's exactly what I think is going to happen. And I think you put, even though Trujillo is at the 8-9, I think you put him everywhere.
I have Trujillo at 8-9 because there's money to be made on other fighters that are going to make up that difference. Does he go on the LaTB card? Because I feel like we're
I'm
both
putting
fairly
him
confident.
over. I'm putting him
Alrighty.
over. If it's going to be such a split up night, we got to get the ones we agree where we agree.
Totally, I like that. So, walking down this fight path, we have Tim Elliott bringing on the debuting Pietro Magna at 125 pounds, the flyweight division. Elliott's coming off of the Ultimate Fighter show, coming off of a loss to Ben Nguyen submission 6 months ago. That was very big underdog for Nguyen coming through, beating people like Luis Mocha and giving many people say Demetrius Johnson one of the hardest fights that he has ever seen in the UFC, and I agreed with that 100%. It was really shocking that Nguyen, how one-sided it was, but Nguyen really set that up with strikes to get that submission, and all credit to him. The new 13-0 fighters, 29 years old, 5'7". We don't have a reach on him. He's coming out of the Team Bucao Liverpool, out of the United Kingdom, against the 30-year-old, also 5'7", Elliott. I didn't watch enough tape. I saw 2 or 3 fights, but they were essentially highlights of Magna. He has pressure, good pace. He has multiple wins and finishes. By submission tends to be the way he likes to get 2 fights. He sets that up with his striking. He has good power, and he has fought in Bellator, so it is a fairly big show. I would think against a lot of other fighters, I think I would pick Magna, but I think Elliott and Nguyen are top 5, top 10 guys, and it's a really turbulent division. So this up-and-coming fighter is going to have another fight, but I think that Elliott, I don't know if he's an underdog or not, but I really like him everywhere in this fight just because he's so unorthodox with a high gas tank, doesn't have tons of power, but has a great chin and can go 5 rounds, even though he is coming off of that essentially knockout finish, because that's what set up that submission for Nguyen with that head kick really hurting him. I think Elliott's going to be a demon in there after a loss. He's going to be pissed and just looking to put his stamp on something. I got Elliott submission round 2. I think he figures him out. I think he wears him down a little bit. Has better entries in the wrestling. The takedown for Magna seemed okay, but it wasn't against the best caliber. So I got Elliott submission. How do you feel this one goes down?
Elliott right now is 9,000 on DraftKings, and Manga is 7-2. I actually really, even though I have Elliott decision on this, and he's 9, I like Elliott at 9 on this. He throws so many rapid punches.
Yep.
He throws so many.
Constant
I don't know what
movement.
they're going to consider significant shots, but he really is a lot. It's like he's covered in butter. He's hard to get a hold of.
True. It's true.
It's with my 9.
You got to hurt him
yeah.
to the head first. It's the only way you can really get him with one of those flash submissions.
And I really don't mind his 2 losses. To me, they were totally respectable. I don't know enough about Manga, but I think Elliott's underrated. But looking at DraftKings, it seems like he's no longer underrated. And so I really like Elliott. And even though a decision at 9, I still like him for your DraftKings card.
I like him for the DraftKings card, and we can move him over and then maybe switch someone else up later
Yeah.
just to see, because I think that there's a couple other ones
And something
that are
else we're going to try
lopsided.
to at the end too, when we're taking people off and putting it on, putting other people on, I want to really think it out in points. Because that's something I think, even though we're picking all winners sometimes on our DraftKings, some of the other picks that we have would have been a better option, even though they were losses because of point reasons. That's exactly what we said. So I think we need to talk it out a little bit at the end.
So you definitely have to read between the lines, and while you're listening,
You got to go to
LaTB,
lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Twitter at lesboandthebean. Don't forget to do that. Uh-oh.
And going back over to the welterweight division, we got 2 other semi-veterans at Chad Laprice having a long-standing career coming off of that Canada show as well. Local Canadian against Galore Bofando. Bofando being 8-2, the much more young fighter. as far as fight career, I think he might be older, coming in around the mid-30s range. Laprise is also 31 years old. Bufando 5-2, coming off of one of the most unique knockouts you'll ever see in the UFC ever. It was a throw where the other gentleman landed on his head and was knocked out via the canvas. Only happened a few times, but that's essentially what won the fight. He had a good game plan against Bufando, pushed him up against the fence, started to tire him out really good, but that was just a feebled old man in there who could not have his strength about him. And Laprise is not that physically intimidating in general as well. Laprise tends to be a point fighter, uses his boxing cleanly and outpoints people. Ended up making some money against Laprise with a better striker with more power, which was Francisco Trinaldo. And I think a lot of people are really saying, hey, this is another Trinaldo fight. But Trinaldo is a much more advanced striker than Bufando. Throws with power, but it's in the chamber with straight punches. Bufando does have a very looping style. There is a lot of power in his strikes, but it is very wild as well, which against a technician, you can live through that and go and move on into the later rounds and get a decision. And that's what Laprise does 101. That's his job. He finishes people in the third round because they just can't keep up with the constant peppering that happens. It's all getting out of that first round. Laprise's chin's also been tested a few times and not come up so well against specifically Trinaldo, and Bufando has that type of power. I just can't trust Bufando in his unique way that he finished. He cuts a little bit more. He's much more muscular. It's all that gas tank. Really has me worried. The veteranship of Laprise, I have a bit more confidence in. I don't care either one of these. This is such a weird fight for me to pick because I want the finish in Bufando, and that's why I see finishing early. But realistically, the decision and the finish potentiality goes to Laprise instead of Bufando. Bufando doesn't have the decision option in my eyes. So, to me, the odds say that, hey, I got to be picking Laprise here. Decision. I'm going to stay away from this one, though, betting-wise. 10-foot pole. What do you think goes on in this fight?
Laprise has been a heartbeat for me. I've been totally off on him sometimes and totally on him, and that brings life to me when I'm talking about him. I think his roughest point was when he was trying to cut to 155, and once we saw him step up to 170, his chin got a little better, and then we started to see his power get a little better. Maybe he wasn't as worn out, but we've seen the knockout, we've seen the finishes come for Laprise. Bufando is a scary, crazy fighter, and what happens in the first 2 minutes of the fight is if Laprise can survive the first 2 minutes of the fight, and you'd like to think at this skill level he can. Right. It's almost like Bufando's a wild animal in there. Yeah. The way he finishes fights, it's totally devastating. So if Chad Laprise can survive that first 2 minutes, stay away, wind him out, everything, I think he'll totally take over, and I think he'll finish Bufando in the third round. It will be TKO because Bufando will have zero gas tank and won't be able to go on. I don't think he won't be knocked out cold, but he will just as much give up as be. So I got Laprise TKO round 3. On DraftKings, Laprise is 8-2, Bufando's 8,000. That is Bufando has more potential to make more money in the fight as far as I'm concerned, because I don't see him getting finished till the end of it. And what's going to happen in that first round, he could pick up Laprise with one arm and slam him around the ring 20 times. And are those all takedowns? So I have no idea what's going to happen, and I really want to stay away from this fight all day.
Yeah, I agree that it's going to be weird and something to just enjoy and make your money somewhere else.
And Bufando has that power that even with the crazy guy in there, one clip, over. Especially at that 170
definitely
division.
Staying off of our LaTB card.
Not going on there.
All right. Down the fight card, we have another bout. Julian Marquez debuting in the UFC, coming off of the Contender Series, winning in a devastating knockout.
Julian Marquez, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
That's a great nickname. Against Darren Stewart, who's coming off of a 2-fight losing streak, 7-2 in the record for Stewart, 6-1 for Marquez. The younger fighter, Stewart, 26 years old, to Marquez's 27, and the height is even. Reach advantage goes to Stewart by an inch at 74 inches. MMA clinic for Stewart coming out of Syndicate MMA for Julian. The Cuban Missile Crisis definitely showed his high-powered attack in his fight in the Contender Series. He was coming in against a highly touted prospect as well. Was a coin flip of a fight on the betting odds, and Marquez was a tank in there. Moved forward, threw heavy punches inside the pocket, great uppercuts, and was also throwing kicks from both sides, throwing them with power and accuracy. I mean, the young man that he fought is definitely still has potential of coming into the UFC and doing well. It was just Julian is got tons of hype on him if you know anything about anything else. There's going to be tons of information. UFC's probably already got him signed to an extra contract because he has a look very humble. He was in that Marlon Moraes mindset when he knocked him out. Like, hey guys, like I know what I did and that's what I trained to do, but hopefully he's okay. Like, I don't like doing that to guys, but this is my job, so I'm gonna do what I do because it was devastating. That's a potential fight of the or knockout of the year potential if you really look back at the whole year. Landed just a kick that. I think he grand beat it. No, it wasn't a grand beat, but he toppled over himself for sure. Darren Stewart, I feel like we were fading in our last fight. Our last breakdown of him, which wasn't long ago. He has, of late, lost to Carl Robertson a month ago via submission, rear naked choke. That was really set up by the strikes. Stewart's gas tank looked really rough. He was coming off of an injury. Just Stewart's game hasn't really developed out of England. He's the MMA clinic. I don't know anyone else who's coming out of there. Just the hype, the movement that I've seen. Stewart gasses very quickly into the second round. He does have gas tank for a whole round, but he doesn't get any better. First round is definitely his burst. And Marquez, I think they went into the second. And the first round, he had a great pace. Second round, had a great pace. Great takedown defense as well. Marquez is willing to give a shot, to take a shot. And I don't think Darren Stewart has the type of power to hurt him with the shots that I've already seen that he took. Not only saying that contender fight, I did watch some of his other fights prior to that, and you're going to get someone's getting knocked out in Julian Marquez styles of fights. He comes at you to finish you. I got Marquez everywhere. I think he does end up finishing this fight at 9-1. I think I could put him on my cards. I really like Marquez in this for a finish. I think it's in the third round, but there's such high pace that it'll still get you that 115 range. What do you think goes on in this
I'm
one?
going to go ahead and move Marquez over, even though he's 9-1 against Darren Stewart 7-1. We'll make arrangements later on, but Julian Marquez, the Cuban Missile Crisis, this MF Viking of a man, is going to... He does have good cardio even in the second round, and I actually see the same thing you do just at the end of round 2. So I think he's going to be worth the 9-1 on your cards for that finish, and I think he's going to throw enough devastating punches in between time, enough body shots, maybe some leg kicks. That's the thing that DraftKings needs to look at a little more. I don't know how they're scoring all the leg kicks because sometimes I don't think it's right. Anyways, I got Marquez KO round 2, and this is just as much that I think he's somebody to watch as it is Darren Stewart. Get on out of here. I'm going to tell you that before you fight.
We were saying that long ago. I feel like it's time to get... When Barroso came back and beat you after that weird old split thing, it was just like, get out of here.
Get out. Get out. No.
So, getting on to the next one, we have Jan Blachowicz versus Janin Cannonier. Blachowicz being a longtime veteran, 20-7 against Cannonier's 10-2. The older fighter by a year at 34 is Blachowicz. The height advantage goes to Blachowicz at 6'2" by 3 inches against Cannonier, and the reach advantage is Cannonier. Cannonier, the Killer Gorilla, has really come along. He was a TSA agent out of Alaska who is now training out of Portland specifically. He's coming out of the MMA lab. I don't know why it's not showing on Tapology here, but his boxing has really shown as of late. Last beating Nick Riddick TKO via elbows, but prior to that, losing a decision to Glover Teixeira. Prior to that, beating Asker. Ethan Kutalaba, I think, is a really good win because Kutalaba is... Even though he gassed, he's a son of a bitch of a fighter in there, and you don't just walk through Kutalaba regardless. Cannonier's earlier losses, I feel like came more because he was only fighting part-time. He was working TSA during the days out of Alaska, and since he's made the move for his last 2 fights, he's really been able to get it in the second and third gear. His wrestling defense, takedown defense has been really good, and he has devastating power in his hands. Throws straight right punch down the middle, sets it up well. Glover Teixeira being a decision, I think, is a very credible fight. If not, you could have given that to Cannonier. There was points and times where Teixeira was hurt very badly and only through his grittiness ended up winning that fight. Cannonier's getting a really clean striking game put together. Blachowicz is the type of fighter, though, that uses his wrestling to push you up against a fight and hold you there for all 3 rounds. He'll get you to the ground, move slowly up against you, and slowly climb to an advantageous position. He'll go for submissions if they're there, but if they're not there, he will sit on top of you for 3 rounds and win a decision. He has serviceable striking, okay gas tank, and I think that I'm waiting to fade Blachowicz. I've faded him before, come back on. He's just too sporadic for me, where I feel like I see much more of a trajectory for Cannonier. I have Cannonier decision. If not, I could see a TKO round 1 or 2, even though that Polish chin has taken some very devastating shots before and worn him just fine. Also for Blachowicz, watch out for his body shot kicks. Blachowicz has very devastating body shots, which could really slow Cannonier down, and that's where I'm giving most of the advantage is Cannonier, so I might be a little more scared on that than I think. I'm going to stay away and just watch this one. I do see a finish either fighter. It's a scary one. How do you feel about this one?
Cannonier's 8-8 on DraftKings and Blachowicz is 7-4. I have made money with Blachowicz, and I'm going to make money again. 7-4. This is only going to go to decision, and the longer the fight goes on, the more benefit I see falls to Blachowicz. I think he's actually better everywhere, and I really never jumped on the Cannonier hype train. I think Kutalaba is meh as far as I'm concerned. Asker, he won. Glover, that was actually a surprise to me because Glover's been a fade for a long time, so the fact that they made it that far together. And Roderick, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I think it was like short notice.
So I'm just going to go with a ton of experience. He's coming fresh off a win and just a month ago with a quick submission. So I think Jan has everything right now. It's almost like his training camp kept going. And so I think he's ready to take it again. I have Blachowicz decision, but I actually think he could finish it in round 3 because Cannonier has 0 gas tank. So to me, all day for 7-4, that's who you put on your card to afford monsters is Jan. Right now,
I don't like right now. I would not put that fight on my DK card. I feel like there's a couple other spots we could. That is not the one.
I'm not putting it over.
All right.
But I am not a fan of the Killa Gorilla.
Getting on to the main card. Now you got to switch over to that FS1. We have Glover Teixeira versus Misha Shirkinov. We have Glover Teixeira being 26-6 to Shirkinov's 13-3. The slight favorite right now is Shirkinov, the younger fighter by 8 years. Shirkinov at 30 years old. 1-inch reach advantage for Shirkinov in the height and the reach at 6'3" and 77 inches. This younger fighter is coming off of a devastating loss where gave no time, or is that his nickname now? The assaulter in the division who is still getting the fight. It's another very Polish name. Ozdemir just finished Shirkinov. Shirkinov coming off of a good winning streak, beating Krylov, submitting multiple other fighters. Nicholas breaking his jawbone in that, beating also Kutalaba, which some people like, some people don't. Against Glover Teixeira's long-time title contention, being the 38 for any division is starting to push it, even at heavyweight, even though these guys are only 205. We have seen a dramatic change, even though Teixeira never looked like the most muscular fighter ever. He looks withered than those stages at his time in his life. He's just really lost a lot of mass. And he has been, I believe, flagged a few times for steroids. That he did come out of Brazil. I mean, it's just natural. I think they put it in the water out there, from what some people told me. So, a decision law or a TKO loss 6 months ago for Teixeira. Prior to that, he came off of a decision win 9 months ago to Cannonier, and prior to that, he lost a tooth in a few seconds against Anthony Johnson in an uppercut that would have killed most people. Teixeira's a gatekeeper at his best. He's not gonna he's not gonna win a belt no matter who's there. He's just on his way out, if anything, collecting paychecks, trying to get finishes. Great boxing, sneaky clinch, power. That's the thing that really scares me, is because we saw Shirkinov. I think as much as No Time has power, Shirkinov's chin also isn't been the best, but that's where Shirkinov has really played off of his grappling attack and gone to the ground in a lot of his fights to get submissions or TKO ground and pound. He doesn't tend to like to keep fights striking. And Glover Teixeira has good takedown defense. He's been able to keep a lot of fights standing. If not, he gets them up to the cage, works the way down on the ground. Teixeira's X amount of level black belt actually used it very serviceably in the heavier divisions for a long time, and a lot of people he's staying away from it because he liked his boxing so much. I have Shirkinov decision, just winning a grind up and down on the ground. I think it turns into a stalemate on the ground for all 3 rounds, but they're not going to stay there and have this be a boxing match in between either of these fighters. It's just not in them. Shirkinov decision. What do you think about this disgusting fight the more and more I talk about it?
I feel the exact same way about it. And 8-5 for Shirkinov, Glover Teixeira 7-7. I don't see value in either fighter. I don't see a ton of devastating punches or a bunch of punches thrown. I just see a few more sporadic, devastating ones. So a finish could have come from either fighter. A few back and forth transition points, maybe a takedown either way. If Shirkinov wins, then this is the fight that's the full on Teixeira. Okay,
Yeah,
but
I can see that.
Which it could go that way. So I might have Misha on a few cards, but I'm gonna stay away from Glover all day on that.
Ooh, we have the fan favorite fight of the night. I don't know who's going to explain which other fight's better to me, because there isn't, with Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Michael Platinum Perry at welterweight, 170 pounds. We have a 25-3 fighter, 31-year-old Argentinian who has moved to Florida, American top team as of late, against Michael 11-1 Platinum Perry, coming off a 2-fight winning streak, being 26 years old. He's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage at 5'10" and a 2-inch reach disadvantage at 71 inches against Ponzinibbio. These are two both highly prospected fighters. The only loss coming for Perry in his fight against Joe Ban, which the Bean over here rightly called just saying. Platinum Perry can beat multiple fighters in the UFC, and I do not believe Ponzinibbio is one of those fighters he can beat. Ponzinibbio has great takedown defense, not that Platinum Perry really uses takedowns. Perry's striking is very boxing-centric, good in and out, tons of power, really likes to have that brawling mentality and is willing to trust his chin and know that he can land a shot that's going to be more devastating. Ponzinibbio can oblige, but Ponzinibbio has tons of power as well. A lot of people sleep Evil Twin sleeping on the power of Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio really has set up his striking regiment much, much better in his last few fights. I do know that the Gunnar Nelson win that a lot of people are saying, and I do agree that was set up by eye pokes. He was beating Ponzinibbio with Ponzinibbio was beating Gunnar Nelson with the angles regardless of the eye poke, but the eye pokes did play a factor in that fight. But if that would have turned into a jab, it would have been fairly effective as well. So the range is still there for Ponz. He gets there incredibly fast with his inside punches. I see the linear striker, the guy who moves in and out in a straighter line for me, or takes a step out and then back in, is Ponzinibbio for me, where I see Mike Perry more puts both feet on the ground and at the hip turns like a Rock'em Sock'em robot and is just willing to try to finish you inside the middle of that ring. And Ponzinibbio can have the fight style of dragging it later on if he needs to. He's adapted that multiple times. Alan Jouban showed us this, and that's why I had Alan Jouban when Joe Ban decided not to turn it into a brawl, he was able to win a fight against Mike Perry, and I think that's a blueprint. Ponzinibbio can hurt him if he wants to, but I think the more developed all-around MMA striker is going to be Ponzinibbio on the ground. I don't give it either fighter because I don't see that anywhere going on the ground. If not, it'll get put right back up. Ponzinibbio, TKO round 2. I think he figures him out. What do you feel goes on in this one for you? Pons being the minus 200 favorite. I guess it's not just me who sees it.
It surely isn't, because 8-7 on DraftKings to Mike Perry 7-5. I'm going to call this fight the most overrated fighter in the division versus the most underrated fighter in the division. So I have Ponzinibbio all day. I just have him... I don't know if he's going to me, Mike Perry's going to get winded, so I think Ponzinibbio is going to be able to go in by the end of the second, beginning of the third round to take the shots that are necessary to knock Mike Perry out. So I do think he's going to figure him out as well. I think Ponzinibbio is completely underrated, and I think Mike Perry's only sitting at 18 because he has a big mouth on Twitter. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, Platinum.
Ooh.
I think Gentle Boa takes you out. At the price on DraftKings for Ponzinibbio at 8-7 and Mike Perry 7-5, you could put Mike Perry on a card or two for that flash knockout.
He does have that potential. He does have that type of power. He really does.
For that flash knockout. But 8-7, I don't think is a bad price for Pons.
I agree with that.
I'm going to move him over for now since we agree. But the other fighters that we have over there, I don't know if he's a better choice than any of them right now since he's so highly priced. But yeah, that's another fight we agree on.
That is going to be a hell of a fun one. And as we get to the co-main event, we have Ricardo Lamas defending nothing against Josh Emmett in just a co-main event spot. Lamas being a former belt contender against Josh Emmett's Team Alpha Male 12-1 record. Coming in at 32 years old against Lamas' 35. The height is the same and the reach advantage goes to an inch with 71 inches for Lamas. Lamas coming out of MMA Masters showing that he is a top-level contender for a long, long time, coming off of a 2-fight winning streak against Jason Knight TKO punches 4 months ago. And then as of late as well, submission Charles Oliveira. Before that, only losing to Max Holloway, the current champion. Chad Mendes TKO a while ago, but also...
Those might be the most unimpressive last 3 wins that I've ever seen.
I think that you were right on. that those are rougher fights when you really look back at what's going on with those. We think of each
fighter.
Right. Look, they are fighters that...
He popped a bunch of hype trains and then beat one old guy who should never have been fighting at fuck 145.
Right. Agreed 100%. Against the up-and-comer Emmett with that 12-1. Emmett beating Felipe Arantes in a decision, losing to Des Green in a split decision, and then beating Holtzman as well, decision, knocking out a few fighters along the way prior to getting into the UFC. But the Team Alpha Male wrestling-centric fighter, definitely, you know what you get with Emmett. Overhand right to a takedown. What I do like about Emmett is that he's broken his finger and had the bone sticking out and kept fighting because he knew he was going to win a decision. So toughness, not a factor. I've seen Emmett's nose completely gone in there already a few times, I feel like. Doesn't slow him down at all. Great cardio coming out of Alpha Male. But Ricardo Lamas has been fighting Alpha Male guys for a long time. Chad Mendes, though, also knocking out Lamas means that camp may have the number of Ricardo Lamas' fighting style as well. They've seen him with enough other fighters. They say, this is what Chad did to set this up. Emmett can do that, but he doesn't have as much power as Chad, and I believe Chad just had popped recently as that. So, hey, from what we learned from TJ and freaking Cody is that the juice is flowing at Alpha Male. So, just factors. Ricardo Lamas can keep this standing and win more of a striking bout. This is everywhere. I give a slight edge to Lamas other than his long career. I just feel like he has started to slow down a bit, and this is actually the most danger he's seen in his last 2 fights. I see a decision all day on here. I have Lamas decision. I could switch it to Emmett. I am going to stay away from that because I don't see a finish either way. What do you think happens in this fight?
Ricardo Lamas' fighting style to me at this point is he really just takes advantage of the one hole that you have in that 1 second and it just catches you, whether it's a submission or a knockout or whatever. I don't see Emmett. I feel like he's a pretty well-rounded guy. He's pretty smart in the ring. He does fight through a whole bunch of adverse situations and seems to come out on top. I think this is his crawling point. I like his age a little more. He's ranked 188th. To Ricardo Lamas' 4th. Already on DraftKings and looking at what the favorites are, Ricardo Lamas is 9-3 to Josh Emmett's 6-9. I got to go with Emmett on this. I like him everywhere. Yeah, there's slight edges really with Lamas, but really it's just his experience. And so the right camp to come out of to prepare you for all that experience is Emmett. And Emmett's been in the octagon enough. Right there at that 30 mark is that sweet spot for a fighter with me. I think it's, for me, I'm going to fade Lamas. I'm going to go with the huge underdog here. And I'm going to have Emmett, I think, on some DraftKings at 6-9, which is crazy. I just don't see a finish coming.
Yeah, I agree with that. That sounds like the wager gauger. I was wondering if we were going to end up having one this show. And I think Emmett might be the wager gauger. Even though I don't have him winning necessarily, a decision for that price, he has the type of potential of getting scrambles and all sorts of stuff on the ground to make this a 50-point loss. Easy. For that price, you ain't going to beat it on the night full of finishes. The main event, did we finally get there?
Whew, we trudged through it.
Woo! If you haven't subscribed by now, we earned it. We earned it this time. So, we have Robbie Lawler versus Rafael Dos Anjos, 2 former belt holders. This is a 5-rounder being the main event. We have both fighters coming off of wins. Donald Cerrone had decision for Robbie Lawler as of late against the 2-fight winning streak against Neil Magny for Dos Anjos, and prior to that, Tarek Safadin's decision. The older fighter is going to be Lawler at 35 by 2 years, and the taller fighter is 5'11", is also Lawler with a 3-inch reach advantage, 74 inches, 271 for Dos Anjos. Right now, the damage in more fights that I've seen people take, it's barely even. Lawler is more notoriously had a longer career with more brutal fights, being out of the military system for so long, being a champion. We've seen a resurgence in his career of multiple times where he switched camps and changed everything. I do think that he is out of top team Florida. I do think Robbie Lawler's back up in Minnesota, maybe for his last camp or something. And I feel like I faded him against Cerrone because I thought his head wouldn't be there. But no, Lawler showed that he's still doing all right against Cerrone, though. How does that look now? Now that we've seen Cerrone start to get picked apart.
That don't impress me much.
Exactly. Where Neil Magny...
Sticking with the karaoke thing.
Shania Twain for you guys. Also, if that doesn't earn a subscribe, I don't know what does. So we have Dos Anjos coming off of a win against Neil Magny, who to me is a better fighter right now, but it was just pretty much squished you with some massive 170-pound legs. The striking we didn't really get to see for Dos Anjos, even though we know what we get with him. He has really good striking coming out of King's MMA, striking with elite guys out there. Great head movement coming out of there. Cardio's always been good. The difference in this entire fight is the ground game. That's where I see the definitive one-sidedness, and that goes to Dos Anjos with tons of experience. But Robbie Lawler has good takedown defense, and then once you get Robbie Lawler to the ground, only elite guys have been able to keep him there. But he has been able to get kept there. So I do see a bit more of avenues for win for Dos Anjos. The finishability right now goes for either guy right now. Robbie Lawler does have a bit more power just because he's had more finishes, but Dos Anjos at 170, I think packs a harder punch than he realized as well. I have Dos Anjos winning a decision in round 3. I just see Dos Anjos having a little bit more life in his career, being also 27-9 to the 28-11. Both lifelong martial artists. I don't know if they're in their prime, but I don't see them losing to many people right now in their careers. I think there's a perfectly placed match, not for the belt. And I don't know if either of them goes for the belt. They're both on their last runs for the belt in their careers for me. So, thanks for the show, guys. Dos Anjos submission round 3. What do you think goes on?
Oh, I am not really impressed with Robbie Lawler of late. I think there's questions on whether or not the Robbie of Lawler on early and how clean he actually was during some of his best fights. I do think this is going to be an easy fight of the night, an easy fight of the year. Both guys are going to go in and brawl. I think Rafael at 170 is pretty effing dangerous. All the losses that we've seen him have of recent are during hard weight cuts. Now they're easily publicized, but then obviously we didn't know. Even his knockout with Eddie Alvarez. Other than that, his last 2 wins are pretty easily decisive for me, and I think he at 170 is a far harder fight than Cowboy at 170. So I have Dos Anjos KO round 5. I think it's going to be a bloody, gnarly match. We're going to see another reason why we love Robbie Lawler, but I also think this fight, because of how evenly matched these guys are, this ages both fighters like 5 years apiece. 5 years apiece. This is the 8-1, 8-1 fight, which also brings us to the end where we put our little card together here. I know you don't have Josh Emmett winning now, but for 6'9", if we put him on as our wager gauge.
He's our wager. I think that's the wager gauge.
Okay, so we put him on. I have him winning right now, which would make him the Leslie Smith if we agreed, but wager gauge ya. That only puts us even with Jordan Mean at 8-4, Trujillo at 8-9, Tim Elliott at 9, Marquez at 9-1, and Ponzinibbio at 8-7. We can almost afford the card. We're off by $1,000. So if we can figure out a person in the mid-range who we really think is going to finish, that would be everything.
Interesting. So, in that mid-range, we have... Who are the guys?
Stewart.
Dos Anjos being a 5-rounder. Do we have him on there? I think
that is a brilliant
He can
pick right
substitute
now.
it because it is a 5-rounder. I'd like to always play those 5 rounds.
So if we take Marquez off, we can add Dos Anjos.
Interesting. I really like Marquez in that finish.
Okay, but that puts us even right now. So then if we want to add Marquez back, then we can take off Tim Elliott or Trujillo. But then we're going to have to fuck around with something else, but that's fine.
I think replacing Emmett with that would be a little bit more...
Not Emmett. We can't afford to replace Emmett.
Or no, not Emmett. Elliott.
Elliott throws a ton of punches. Fast little guy.
I know, but it's a 3-rounder. Yeah, he could do it. I see his range being in that 80 range to 90, maybe one where I see Marquez first round, end of the first round, TKO finish, which is at 110, 112 as well. Ooh.
He's 9-1 though.
Yeah.
So really Trujillo or Ponzinibbio are one of the twos we have to take off for most difference. And I see a finish coming for Trujillo.
Me too.
Maybe Ponzinibbio as well. And I understand what you're saying about Elliott to take him off. We can take off Elliott.
No, I like switching pawns because we both see the flash potential in Perry's power there. Where we see I feel like I see Marquez winning more soundedly than I feel like Pons, and I feel like Elliott wins more soundedly as well.
Okay,
so I go with the most trustworthy.
We're 400 over, so we got to get rid of maybe Trujillo and go with someone in the 8-5 range, like a Serkinov. A Talib. We don't agree on that one.
Yeah, I don't like either of those. There's nothing that says we can't have money left over.
No. We don't have money left over.
We have to get rid of 400.
We can get rid of Jordan Mean and add Bofondo over Laprisi. I don't like that.
I don't like that either. I
think we got to go back to how it was. I think we got to take off Marquez.
Yep, that's going to be it.
And who was it? Put back on Pons.
Yep.
So, and we're at $0, which never really happens. So here's our final card for Lesbo and the Bean. Remember to follow at lesboandthebean.com. You can find us on Libsyn. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hit the bell. We're going to be updating the content very soon, and it should get better when we have the live video in the room and everything like that while we're doing the podcast. So blah, 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 blah. Here's the final card. At 8-4, we have Jordan Mean beating Silva. At 8-9, we have Trujillo beating Medesi. At 9, we have Tim Elliott getting enough points to get Manga, even if he doesn't get the finish. We got the Osanos piecing up Lawler for an easy 8-1. Ponzinibbio over Perry, which is our sketchiest part of the whole card at 8-7. And then Josh Emmett, even though he's 6'9", we do not see a finish coming for Lamas. And that is the Lesbo and the Bean card.
Lesbo and the Bean!